Hey Britt, with everything that's been going on, it's been hard for me to get in the mood to film something or think about anything that I wanted to talk about. But I figured I really wanted to keep this going, so I wanted to talk about a few different things. I want to talk about some of the things that some of my favorite and least favorite books on my bookshelf. And I wanted to talk about the different ways some of my customers are handling the stuff that's going on right now. So um, since on my last video, hours after it, we did make the decision to shut the barbershop down. So I haven't been working since then, and since then, so many other things have changed. Other cities in the state of Florida have started putting in stay home orders, and as of a few hours ago, our governor put in a stay home order for the entire state of Florida for 30 days. So that's where we're kind of at with that. So, because I can't browse bookstores right now, I figured I'd go browse my bookshelf and kind of talk about some of the things. I found a few books that I thought were really interesting to talk about, some favorites and some not so favorites. Because I remembered that is how I found some of my favorite books has been by just browsing a bookstore, either used or new. I like them both a lot. So kind of without further ado, one of my favorite books, I've mentioned this author before, Cormac McCarthy. My favorite book is All the Pretty Horses. It's a really fantastic story. As soon as I got done reading it, it was one of those I wanted to just start over page one and read it all over again. It's the first of a trilogy called the Border Trilogy. So during this quarantine, I'm going to finally read The Crossing, which is the second in the Border Trilogy. I've tried reading it a few times. I've DNF'd it a few different times just because I wasn't in the right headspace for it. It's not that I didn't enjoy it. I just didn't finish reading it. There was other things I wanted to read. But now I've got a lot of time, so I'm going to finally crack this one open. Another book during this quarantine that I am going to probably finish that I've DNF'd years ago is this book called Earth by David Brin. I found this in a used bookstore. It's just a sci-fi, futuristic. It hits a little too close to home in a lot of different ways. The environment is in catastrophe and the ozone layer is gone, all the good stuff is in here. But there's some like alien life and some warfare going on. I got about more than 75%. I got all the way. This is the end before I DNF'd it, probably 3 or 4 years ago. So this is the only book that I've DNF'd, besides The Crossing, that I have thought about. I really do wonder what happens in the end of that. So I'm pretty excited about jumping back into this one. The Crossing, I'm starting from the very beginning because I want to get the whole book idea. I'm not starting at the beginning with Earth. I'm just going to start where I left off. If I forgot something, I forgot it. But I really just kind of want to read those last, I don't know, 100 something pages. Yeah, 130 pages. So that's what else is on my bookshelf. The next book doesn't have a cover really anymore, but it still has the spine cover. It's Everything's Eventual by Stephen King. I've had this book since I was 17 years old. It's survived multiple dogs and moves, and it's one of the oldest books that I have because, as you know, I didn't like reading, but what got me really into reading was short stories. And so Everything's Eventual is a book of 14 short stories by Stephen King. since reading this, I've read some Stephen King novels, I've read other Stephen King short stories, and I gotta say, he excels at the short story. I really, 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 really love his short stories. It's what sparked my interest in reading. You know, obviously reading a short story isn't as daunting as reading an entire book, but it let me know I could get through something. And then once you get through a whole thing of short stories, you're like, that's basically getting through a whole book of chapters. Once you know you can do that, it makes it pretty easy. I've even gone as far as reading The Stand, the unabridged version. Now, there's a lot of things I like about The Stand, but there's a lot of things I don't, and that's where I'll probably never read another Stephen King novel. Love his short stories. I would go back to these. I still do. But I'm sorry, he really, really wastes my time with his novels. I think there's a lot of things that just need to be left out. Probably should have read the abridged version of The Stand. Maybe I wouldn't be as mad about it, but that was my fault, I guess. Another book I just really want to talk about, I think it's really interesting. It's one of the most recent books I read. It's called Ash Wednesday, and it's by Ethan Hawke. Yes, that Ethan Hawke, the actor. He's in my favorite movie trilogy, the Before trilogy. So when I saw this in a bookstore, I was like, wait, Ethan Hawke wrote a book. It's a little love story. It's pretty quick read. It's not that remarkable, but it's not bad writing either. It's actually kind of fun. I really enjoyed it. You know, if you want something that's just kind of a quick read, it's basically a little love story about a couple that they're newly pregnant and they're just trying to figure out their way through life with that. It's cute. I like it. Pick it up. I think you might enjoy it. And the only other thing book I wanted to talk about is, you know, we did talk about choosing books by their cover and how that can and can't be good. The Four Fingers of Death by Rick Moody is one of the books that I own that I probably DNF'd the quickest. It was so boring, and I thought the cover looked really interesting. I've had this book for years. It's really thick. I like to press flowers in it. I don't think I have any in here right now, but that's what it's most useful to me for now. I bought it at a used bookstore. I don't really know why I still have it, other than I guess pressing flowers, but this was a disappointment with choosing books by the cover. But it's really, most of the time I actually do pretty well with that method. So yeah, that's my book segment. So the next thing, like I said, I wanted to talk about some reactions I've been getting through this whole situation with my customers. Typically, they've been falling into two different categories. They're pretty different. One category has been kind of acting as if this is just happening to them. They're upset that they can't get their hair cut. They're asking that I break with CDC guidelines and do house calls. For the most part, they're harmless about it. They're just like, hey, I was wondering, I'd like to help you out and you could help me. The worst of these are days after I've already told them, no, I'm staying inside. I'm keeping in guidelines with the CDC to just social distance for now. Some of them are coming at me like, well, hey, I've seen other people in the parks. You know, I'll bring the chair and I can Venmo you, and then that way you can just cut my hair. I've seen other people do it. And to my reaction, I'm like, look, I'm not making any money right now. Obviously, I would love for you to Venmo me and for me to be able to work. that is not what's going to get me back to work sooner, though. What's going to get me back to work sooner is for all of us to take this seriously and follow the CDC guidelines. So it's kind of weird that in this state right now, I'm having to politely tell customers, no, I'm not going to cut your hair. I'm social distancing. I'm keeping within the CDC guidelines. That's a little annoying. If they want to keep suggesting to me that they see other barbers do it, I suggest to them that they go to those barbers. Actually, not really. I wish the barbers would stop doing it so then the customers would stop asking for it, but that's asking too much, apparently. The other section of customers are my favorites and the ones that I'm gonna remember you. I mean, I'm gonna remember you too, the mean ones, but I'm gonna remember you too. I've had some customers that are really a shining light for humanity right now. They are just reaching out to me. Hey, Brandy, I know things must be tough for you right now. I just wanted to see if you're okay. You know, hey, I know we had an appointment next week. Obviously, I'm canceling, but I can't wait to see you once this thing is over. Now, I have had a few, just like on the bad side, there's your outliers. Graciously, I've had a few on the good side be outliers too, in the good way. I've had some people just straight up just like, hey, I know you're not giving me a haircut, but I'm gonna pay for one anyways. Or people like, hey, I'm going to pay for a future haircut whenever that happens to be. We'll figure it out then. And to those angels, I'm so grateful. You know, this morning, I think why I wanted to talk about this was kind of back to back. I had two different customers. One text me and say, hey, obviously I'm not going to get a beard trim and a haircut this week, but I wanted to go ahead and compensate you for it, you know, for a future haircut and beard trim. Also, today is my brother's birthday, so I'm going to go ahead and pay for his haircut and beard trim. You can go ahead and give him one in the future too. And he cash apped me the money for 2 haircuts, 2 beard trims, and a tip. Did not have to do that, but out of the graciousness of his heart, he did. On the other hand, I had a customer who I've already told I'm not doing haircuts to offer the park idea. I had to graciously tell him, no, I'm social distancing. I do hope that we can get back to all of this soon, and really I don't expect customers to reach out to me to make sure that I'm okay. I'm so grateful to every single person that sits in my chair, even the ones who really couldn't give a fuck about me. They just like the way I cut their hair. I don't want it to sound like I'm complaining. I think it's really interesting the differences in the reactions I've been getting. But yeah, I thought that was interesting. So just wanted to say, first of all, before I go, Totes is a welcome guest in any video. Adorable goat. Yeah, that's Totes adorbs. Had to do it. Or, you know, anybody, if you want to bring on any of the kids, if they're into it, Wally, if he happens to be into it, if you wanted to bring on a guest, I've got little Thorn. I don't know if you've been seeing her in my lap, but she's just been sleeping through this the whole time. But anyways, we're going to leave it at that today. She's kind of, I don't know, she wants to go back to sleep. Okay, all right, peace.